Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast.
Wherever you find American troops today, you'll find the men of the Transportation Corps. Enough and on time. That's the story we tell you today. The story of the Army Quartermaster Corps.
These youthful servicemen are members of the Army's Military Police Corps.
One of the most important forces behind the lines, the Army Ordnance Corps.
Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast. I am Sergeant First Class Adam Ross, Public Affairs NCOIC for 19th Expeditionary Sustainment Command. And with me today is a very special guest who has a inspiring personal story today. We are joined today by the 19th ESC G2 Lieutenant Colonel Yi. Sir, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And, sir, we're going to get into your remarkable story pretty soon, where it all began, kind of here in Daegu. But first, I want to know, when you came through Camp Henry, the gates of Camp Henry today, does it still carry a special meaning for you coming on base?
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you. I'll kind of get into my story here, after the quick intro. But I tell you, it's... I can't really remember too much, as a kid, again, because I was dropped up, when I was 3 months old. But just after talking with my wife and, my sister and all that, it's a very strong meeting, which is, the heart still kind of, thumps once in a while, kind of coming through the gates.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I imagine it really must be special to be stationed here. I mean, you've been stationed in Korea before, but actually to be stationed here at Camp Henry would be special for you. And so let's get into that then, sir. So take us back to those, what you know of those early days here on Daegu.
Wow. So, yeah, it's I kind of lay out the entire story here. So back in 1973, my mother, she was about 19 years old, and she lived here in Daegu, and she met my father. My father, he actually worked in 19th ESC. He was at 92 Golf. And for those that don't know what a 92 Golf is, that's a mess hall cook. I think it was a different MOS title then, but yeah, she met my father and kind of developed a relationship with him during the early 70s. Had my sister and had me, and it was, she had a good life. She was having a good life for about a few months. I was a couple years actually, and at that time my father was, I'm gonna say his rank was an E5. He was an E5 cook here at the NCO, sometimes soldiers, do soldiers thing, right? So they kind of, my father was kind of very interested in other females, and had multiple, let's say, girlfriends, and kind of left my mother in a very interesting situation where she had to make that sacrifice to kind of give us up at the gate. Because if I could go back just a little with my mother, so back in the 1950s, my mother was born in 1951. She was actually born to an African American father and a Korean mother, and she was raised in Korea as an Amerasian. And it was difficult at that time because, again, there wasn't a lot of African American and Korean people at that time. So she had a rough life, and all she thought about, and this is coming from her, was how to kind of escape this country. So with that, she she, of course, at that time there was a lot of clubs and all that, right? Especially down in Daegu and up in Seoul. So she met my father at one of the local clubs here, and she had a relationship, and hoping that she would, my father would marry her and kind of get her out of the situation.
And so, did she think she would be more accepted in America, maybe, or was she was looking to leave Korea? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, back then, the saying was, the land of the big PX, right? Of the U.S., right? And she read papers, and she saw TV, and and she saw people of her color, back in the States in the 70s. So yeah, she just wanted to kind of get there to kind of start her life all over again. So yeah, she met my father. Hoping that he would, I guess, be that ticket back to the States, because it was just really rough for her in Korea at that time. So again, as I stated earlier, my father, bless his heart, he just he kind of had a little too much fun in Korea at that time. And he decided to meet someone else. And my mother, again, she had my sister. She was 1 year old, and I was only 3 months old. So she, once she found out that my father was in a separate relationship with another woman, she and my father, was adamant that, hey, listen, I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible for these children. Kind of neglected, his responsibility. She just had to make that sacrifice, and that sacrifice. And what I mean by that sacrifice is she had to give us up, and the way she did this was, my sister was about 1 year old, and again I was about 3 months old, and she dropped us off at the gate over at Camp Henry, and just ran. Mm-hmm. She ran the other way, and the reason why she had to make that sacrifice is she understood the pain that she had to go through. Being raised in Korea as an Amerasian, and us again, at least she was 50% Korean, right? Mm-hmm. She had that feature, so being part Korean. But again, for us, my sister and I, we were, about 25% Korean, and we looked more African American than she did. So she just did not want us to bear the pain that she had to go through. So yeah, she.
And was her hope then that your father would take both of you back to the States?
That was her hope, of course. She took a risk because she knew that he was his responsibility wasn't there. But again, she took a risk, hoping that he would follow through and do the right thing. So she.
And so there was a soldier at the gate then who received both of you?
Yes. According to my mother, it was the MPs. At that time, it was the MPs guarding the gates. So, yeah, she yelled at the MPs, dropped us off, and then ran. And they ran across the street. And before this, I know there's just new constructions going up here, but before that, it was a bar. It was called the Gecko Bar that was right across the street. I think they tore it down here last year. But yeah, she ran into the building there and was on the second floor and looked down to ensure that the police actually took us.
Yeah, I think the Gecko used to be on our CPP checklist actually when we did CPP.
You're right.
Wow, and so what they took both of you inside the gates, and then was your father still at Camp Henry then, or?
So yes, again, I was 3 months old, but so this is coming from both my father and my mother's story. But yes, my my father was summoned by the MPs because she actually had a note under my crib, or the little bassinet that she had, and she put my father's name, and she remembered his social security number, so she slipped that on, so the MPs were able to see that, and then identify my father, which is working here at the local mess hall, and then contact his company commander.
And so, father comes to see both of you in the custody of MPs, and then what I read also about this was he was slated to go to Vietnam. Is that
right? So he actually went to Vietnam and then came back. So it was during that from 1970 to 1973. He had to go on a quick tour to Vietnam. So it was after his Vietnam tour that he actually came back, and this situation happened.
And so what was his decision then at that point?
Well, I don't think he really had a choice. It was his company commander, and I've been trying for a while to get a hold of this company commander because he actually saved both of our lives. And what I mean both of our lives, I'm talking about my sister and I. Because again, he was an E5, so he had to go in front of the company commander, and let me take this story could get a little confusing, so let me take it back just a little bit. So my father, yes, was summoned by the MPs and took custody of us. And after that, what I was told was my father put us in a local orphanage. We were there for, I would say, approximately about 6 to 7 months. And then the company commander that was here, rumor flies, especially in the in the 60s and 70s. So the company commander summoned my father once he found out that we were, and my sister and I were in a local orphanage, and the company commander, absolutely, I'd say a guardian angel, told my father that he had 2 choices: either stay in the military or get chaptered out. And my father, he only had a 5th grade education when he came in, so really didn't have a lot of options. So the company commander told my father to go and get us from the orphanage and find a way to take care of us.
So he was depending on, he would be chaptered out if he left you in the orphanage.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so he did go and get you then from the orphanage at that point?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And the company commander went with him, along with the first sergeant at the time, to the local orphanage here, and brought us out of there. And again, I can't recall. I was too young, but my sister can to some degree. It was very traumatic for her. So my father, the company commander told my father again, make sure that we're taken care of. And my father was able to find a nanny. In Korea, they call them, Amma, right? Or Ajima, or Harmony. Here locally, here in Daegu. And kind of gave custody of us to her to take care of while he, during his time in the military, while I was here in Korea.
Because he was still in the barracks too, I would imagine.
Yes, right. He was absolutely in the barracks. So, he can't have 2 kids in the barracks and stuff. So, he did the right thing by, trying to find someone to take care of us, and he paid her a certain amount to monthly to just watch after us and take care of us.
And then, so your total time in Korea then, as a young man, as a baby,
yeah,
how long was that?
Yeah, it gets pretty interesting here. So I was in Korea total for 12 years.
Wow.
for 12 years.
And so was that woman raising you that whole time?
Yeah, this individual was raising us during that time while we were in Korea. Yes.
And so your father then he wasn't in Korea. Was he sending money then from the States to her?
Yeah. So he was. So the story gets a little more in depth here. So she did. My father did provide her monthly, stipend to take care of us. And she had a daughter. She had a daughter. I would say about the same age as my mother, and her daughter was in a relationship also with an African American guy, and he at that time left back to the States and found out she was pregnant. So she had a daughter. So we're all about the same age. So I viewed her as the mom and a nanny there taking care of us here in Daegu.
Mm-hmm.
And again, receiving, and the individual that took care of us was receiving money monthly.
And so what are you obviously probably remember a lot of that time. I mean, most of your childhood then was in Korea. What do you remember from that, sir?
It was rough. And the reason why I say it was rough, because again, I think that the individual that was taking care of us didn't have good intent. I think they had a monetary intent at that time, which was just to receive the money. And being 75% African American and looking African American, they were embarrassed to have us go to school. So my sister and I, we didn't go to school. We were, used as I don't know if you know black market runners. Yeah. So black market was pretty prominent then, and a lot of soldiers were involved in the black market. Mm-hmm. So we were used as employed, I would say, as a black market runner.
So that's what, instead of going to school, that took up a lot of your time.
Yes, it took up a lot of time, and the thing I can remember about those days is I don't know if you can recall, Sergeant Ross, but I'm probably too young for that. But the sugar daddy candy.
Right,
the sugar daddy.
I remember that, sir.
Right, exactly. That's one thing I can recall about my time, because that was more my incentive, right?
Candy.
It was an incentive, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, I would deliver the goods to a location, and then if I returned, right, if my sister and I, if we returned, we would receive the candy as an incentive for coming back.
And during that time, did you think about going to America? Do you think you would meet your father, or what?
So America was the furthest thing from my mind. So my father would, come occasionally and visit. So it's not like I didn't know who my father was. So he would, pop in occasionally. He did go to Vietnam after that fact. He had a quick tour in Vietnam after the 73. So he would pop in once in a while, and I knew that was my father. But again, he at that time was just doing things he shouldn't be doing.
And so what did you, like, I'm trying to think, a 10-year-old self, like, what were you just saw this as this was your future? This was going to be,
Yeah, I mean, I was too young to even think about future.
Yeah, true.
Right. I thought this was just the norm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And one thing I can recall is the elementary school here. I think it was still here. I think George. I can recall. I don't know if it was George Elementary School, Daegu Elementary School, actually, on Camp George. I don't know if that was always there or not, but I remember looking at kids going to school, and I just didn't understand All right.
I guess that's kind of what I meant. Like, did you ever see, you thought, like, am I going to go to school someday? Or
that I wanted to go to school because I was illiterate. I didn't. I just learned how to read and write Korean recently. Before this, I couldn't speak English. I could just only speak Korean, but I didn't understand the characters. We just thought this was the norm, and we just thought that, hey, listen, due to the fact, the people that raised us were very open. It was like, hey, listen, we're not gonna send you because you're your skin color, and we're just here to you're just here to, and we're just here to kind of feed you. So they were not the best, let's just say.
So when the next big milestone is when those circumstances changed, when you did move from Korea.
Yes. This is the reason why I know that everybody's footsteps ordained, right? So my father, he had epiphany and he received the Lord, and he came back. He came back about 1970. I want to say 1977, 78. He came back from Vietnam, and he was stationed in Camp Hialeah. That's down in Busan. I think they recently closed out here in 2006. But I was stationed in Camp Hialeah. So when he came back, received the Lord, and then he, saw the nanny's daughter, and of course she was single. She had an American daughter. So they decided to, she apparently he fell in love. I don't know what she did, but she tried to get back to the States herself. So they got married. They got married, and I can recall the marriage just a little because I would say about 5 or 6 years old about that time. So yes, they got married, stationed off down in Busan for a little bit, and for 1 year. And after that, we moved up to my father was stationed up at Yongsan.
Oh.
Yeah, so we went up to Yongsan, lived in Itaewon for a little bit. And then in the it was, I don't say 79, they had the thing I can remember about Itaewon is I lived on the place, they call it a certain name.
I know what you're talking about, sir.
Yeah, they call it a certain name. It was over by Polly's. It's to be called the Eve Club. I can never forget that name. 79. It was called the Eve Club, and we lived right across the street from it on the second floor. And I just saw nothing in the evening but just GIs going back and forth. And so we moved there. They got married, and I can recall it was, I want to say, we lived there for a couple of years until 1982. Until 1982, still didn't go to school. Yeah, so I'm about 9 years old. And
by this point, your father had over 10 years in the military, or he was?
He was, yes. So my father, so he retired in 1986. So when he was here, it was he got in trouble, Article 15, and so that's the reason why he was an E5 here. He was a senior NCO, but there was some stuff he did he shouldn't be doing. So he was demoted several ranks. Yes, so he was in the military for a little bit. About that time, about 20 years, about 20 some odd years.
And did he finished his service in Korea, or that was?
So he finished his service in Fort Lewis, JBLM now, but it was in Fort Lewis. I'll never forget that. In 1986, going.
That's when you moved.
Okay. Yeah, that's when we moved. And to this day, I can recall in the Itaewon when my father, I was a little older, about 10 then. He said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna go to the U.S." And I knew about the United States because my father talked about it. But he kept on saying, Tacoma. kept on saying Tacoma. And I just, for some reason, I thought it was Tokyo. So I just kept on looking at the map. I was like, hey, listen, Tokyo's here. And my father was like, no, that's on the other side. So he came back again and found the Lord, and he just, he accepted the responsibility of us and took my sister and I and the stepsisters back to the States for the first time, and it was pretty incredible.
I bet. And we're going to take a short break, sir. Just quite a story. We're just going to take our breaths for a little bit. We'll be right back here on the Every Soldier Counts podcast. Okay, sir, and you were back with Lieutenant Colonel Yi. So, sir, you moved to Fort Lewis, Tacoma. So your first time in a school then was in Tacoma, right?
Yeah, pretty much. First time school there, and Tacoma there. Very interesting time, let's just say. It was very challenging. Because again, my father didn't have any documentations of me because he was able to get us on a MAC flight, and basically get us on a plane and just go there without on land there in McCord Air Force Base,
like a Space A type flight or something.
Space A, yeah, and without any documentation because he didn't have any. So he enrolled me. I was probably the oldest kindergartner in history.
Wow, so you started off in kindergarten?
I did.
Wow.
I did because, again, I can speak English well at all, actually. So they wanted to, place me in some, just to kind of assess. I know it was very, very challenging. And I recall when my father enrolled me into school, he had to give me his name. So my original name was Raymond Womack Jr. So that's the name I was enrolled in to elementary school there in Sheridan. It was Sheridan Elementary School, the Tigers, yeah. So.
And so obviously, not what most teachers expect to encounter, in America, an older child who doesn't speak English. So what was your early education experience like then?
It wasn't fun. Because again, I had a speech impediment on top of this. I stuttered every word. I think it was just the trauma of, being raised in a situation in Korea and kind of going to the States. I don't know what it was, but I had a speech impediment and I stuttered every word. So that was a challenge.
And were you speaking some English at that point from living with your father for a while?
Right. So I was able to, the basics. Right. But the thing is, an interesting thing was I was pretty decent in math. I don't know where that, came from, but math, I excelled at the math, but besides math, English was just something that I had to continue to work at. So
at what point did you feel like you were starting to catch up with
I would
other
say
kids?
after, yeah. So it wasn't like they had me in kindergarten for a year. It just wouldn't be right. Older kid in kindergarten. So basically, they lead me up to I want to say to third grade. I want to say, don't take me on that one as facts, but it's about third grade, about where 10-year-old. I'd say about So. And I was placed in 10th grade. I'm sorry, not 10th grade, but in third grade when I was about 11 years old. And it was tough. Mm-hmm. It was tough because kids aren't, kids about that age is not the
right.
It's not the most friendliest. Let's say, yeah. So.
And then at that point, your father is out of the military.
Yes.
And so, what did you feel yourself? Acclimating to American culture at that point?
My father was out of the military, but he was really strict. He really got involved with the Bible a lot and everything with the Bible. And so he lived his life by the Bible. So we couldn't do certain things, and we were he put us in a legalistic church in a way, and it was So that on top of not being the most educated kid, I guess, in third grade was difficult, and plus the people the nanny that he brought over and the wife, they had a different intent, let's just say.
And they were still living with you.
They were.
Too.
They had their daughter, and they were living, and basically brought her entire family over. I brought the sister, the uncle, everybody, her side of the family over.
At a certain point, are you feel comfortable, with all parts of academics, not just math.
Right. So yes. So again, we could leap forward just a little here. So yeah. So I caught up. Still had that speech impediment, but I was kind of a quiet kid because of that. So I was able to catch up. Still didn't really, maintain a strong GPA. So went through, went to middle school, got passed. They just kind of passed me on. So it was inner cities, right? So I just kind of met the I wouldn't even say standards. They just kind of pushed me along. Let's just say.
And I meant to ask too, did you and your sister through this whole time, you maintain a really strong bond from what you've been through? And how did she take to America?
Yeah, so, there's, yes. So, of course, my sister and I she's my heartbeat, right? She is, because she's been there with me since the beginning, so. Yeah.
And then, was there a teacher who then kind of it helped you improve your GPA and get?
Thanks, Arnold Ross, for bringing that up. Yeah, it was. I will never forget her name. Her name was Miss Swan. She invested a lot of time. Let's just say in me. It was at Baker Middle School. I'll never forget her. She saw something in me, and after school she would stay after school with me and just. Work with me. She's like, hey, listen, Ray, that was my name at the time. She's like, you got this. And instilled that confidence, which I needed. I never had that, right? Never had that. And then it was middle school, and then, something, traumatic happened to me at middle school because my sister was taken away from me. There was some stuff that happened with just the nanny and her family that came from Korea, and the Child Protective Services took my sister away, which was very devastating.
I can't even imagine. So, this was this was middle school, you said. So
it was middle school. It was about middle school. Right.
And so did your Miss Swan help you over? Was she helping you overcome those the home life troubles as well?
Well, I was kind of a private person, so I didn't really disclose too much of my private, home affairs, with Miss Swan. But she knew something was wrong. She knew something was wrong, but I did not disclose that with her. It's just everything was about just education.
And so, but she set you kind of on a different academic trajectory,
right? She instilled hope in me, right? I knew I could do it because she was there to kind of give me that positive reinforcement that I needed. So,
and then at what point did college become a possibility for you then?
You're right. So, middle school, went through that. And then I went to Lincoln High School. And again, my father, he was there with me the whole time. And basically he was really kind of, it was like, hey, listen, you got to get involved with something, kid. You're a big kid, you're fast. Hey, listen, he tried to take me into the boxing ring and tried to teach me a little boxing. And, one jab, my nose, started bleeding. So like, yeah, boxing's not for you. So went to Lincoln High School. I went to Lincoln High School, and it was my sophomore year. I went out and just tried out football. I never played this game in my life. So they put me as a running back. I can remember this is like the first play ever. And they just told me to go tackle someone with the ball. So I was a running back, and when the center hiked the ball to the quarterback, I tackled the quarterback. That's one thing. But with that, I kind of figured out this game, and I excelled. And was right at the one of the top receivers in the U.S.
Wow. And so that gave you a new confidence too, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that gave me. Yeah, I was. Now I'm popular, right? Mm-hmm. High school. I'm on the newspapers and such forth. So I start getting popular, and I hung around with my friend. They all went off to the NFL, like Lawyer Malloy.
Really, Lawyer Malloy?
Right. He was our running back.
Okay.
And our quarterback was John Kitna.
Really?
Yeah, John Kitna. He's of course played for Seattle, and he's right. Mm-hmm. So, and I was a receiver, right? So for that great running back and quarterback, so that did help. But so I got I was basically recruited, by everybody. But there was some issues with my education.
And you end up going to Washington State.
They accept the risk. Yeah, they accept the risk, and I ended up going to Washington State. I sat out 1 year, the first year, because of Proposition 48, because I didn't pass the SATs and had some educational challenges. Mm-hmm. So.
But then, so you're at a much bigger stage, obviously, with your football career, and takes off. Once you're on the field there.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, it was my second year there. Played the Alamo Bowl, and had a good time. It was just a different going to college and having it paid for it. It was just unbelievable. Let's just say.
And that's when another big stage of your life starts too. So it was at that point when you went back to Korea, or you decide to join ROTC?
Right.
Okay.
So it was in 1990. When was it? It was in 1995. Was it? I can't really. I'm sorry. Yes, so it was in 1995. I still playing football with Coach Price there, and Coach Doba. And I received a phone call. I received a phone call from my father. It was back in Tacoma, and he said, I found your mother. And I thought it was the nanny because I didn't really cover this earlier, but the nanny left, and she ran off with her and her family, while I was in middle school. So I thought he found that mother. So I was just, to me, I didn't view her really as a mother. So I was just like, okay, well, good for you, kind of, right? Mm-hmm. But no, he paused there for a second. He said, no, before I passed, I want to find your real mother. So he went to the state. He came to Korea by himself. Hired a detective, and was able to track down my grandmother, and found my grandmother, and was able to go to her house and to find out that she was my father found out that she was back in the States. So my grandmother gave him the number.
Your mother was back in the States.
Back in the States. Right, my biological mother.
Wow. And so what did that mean to you then, knowing that you were going to be able to meet her? It didn't really register in my, I couldn't really register that. And the reason why I say that, and this is the part I don't want any, that I want to make sure I cover. Okay? So again, my father came here, and he did all the right things. Found my grandmother. And my grandmother gave my mother's phone number. So he comes back to Tacoma, and at that time, my sisters moved on, and my sister reconnected with me and my father, and those, we kind of skipped that, but. So my father calls my sister first and say, hey, look, I found your mother and such forth back in,
back in the States, see somewhere in the States, could you call this number? And my sister was, she was like, okay, Father and Dad, it's not an issue. So she dialed the number. It started with 206. And my sister said, Dad, you don't need to dial the area code because it's a local number.
So she was right there.
Yeah, she was. So we lived on 56th Street, and we lived on 96th Street, and she lived on 56th Street in Tacoma. And she married, had a son, and came to the States, and her intent was always to find us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was her intent, always to find us, because she wanted to find us. But yeah.
And so, what was that first meeting like then with your mother?
It was kind of surreal, right? It was just like this really happening, because she worked on JBLM.
Wow.
She worked on JBLM. She worked at the AFIS. And my father, was able to kind of get us, well, I didn't talk to her on the phone first. My father just drove us to JBLM. I don't know if you've been to JBLM.
I just came from there, actually.
Yeah. There's a Popeyes there. I don't know if I don't know if they changed it, but back then it was a Popeyes, and out of all places to meet, right? My mother was working at the PX, and I guess that's a central location there. So I saw my mother coming from a distance, and I just, when you see somebody and you're like, I know that person by it was a, I can't explain it, but it was one of those feelings that I knew that she was my mom, kind of. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before you just saw her.
I saw her, and she looked at me. The first thing she did was she grabbed my hand. Well, she gave me a hug, of course, but she grabbed my hand, and she just kept on crying, of course, because I was she gave me up when I was really, really young, and I was a premature baby. So, there was it really impacted her. So she kept on rubbing my hand and just my face, and she did that for quite some time.
Wow. And then, so that began just a regular relationship then, between your sister and you and her.
Yeah. We're just, I guess 3 peas in a pod, I guess. I talk to her every day, basically. She's back in Tacoma University Place, and I talk to her. She's my best friend. I understood the reason why she did what she did. I understood that.
And was she afraid that maybe she wouldn't get that kind of understanding from you?
Yeah. So she said that because again, she was, because she gave us up, right? But I had the I understood. My sister and I, we understood the reason why she did what she had. She did what she had to do. If it wasn't for that, that's very brave, and that's a sacrifice a lot of people can't do and make. But she did not want us to go through what she went through, so that I applaud her for doing what she did.
And that made such an impact on you, meeting her. That influenced your decision to kind of change your path in life.
Oh, absolutely. And that had a lot to do with it. But I think for me, the biggest impact was that company commander. That's the reason why I came into the military. Who knows, right? I could have continued on to the, I was decent in high school, but college is a different level. But if I would have stayed in and continued to play football, I could have probably maybe given a chance at the NFL. But when I met my mother, the one thing I could think of is that company commander. That company commander for, I think at that time they used to call this unit, it wasn't called the ESC, I think.
No, it was like combat or a sustainment command.
Right.
Or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a general systemic command. So, yeah, that HAC commander changed the direction of our life. If it wasn't for him to tell my father, get those kids out, you take care of those kids, I wouldn't. My sister and I would have had a different life, and I mean, we see that every day. You know, if you go to the Philippines, if you go to Vietnam, if you go to Thailand, you see Amerasian kids, and they're not treated the best. And we could have been one of those numbers, right?
So, I mean, the leadership that he displayed, that commander, so that you thought about that and decided that you wanted to go into the military then.
I did. I did, because that commander impacted my life, changed the direction of my life. And if I could do something like that to someone, right, while I'm in the military, hey, listen, I mean, that's the kind of impact that I want to have on people, right? That's the reason why, Sergeant Ross, I came back. That's the reason why I came back to close this narrative here, where it all started, right?
Why you came back to Camp Henry?
Yeah, I was on my way to back to the Pentagon, but no, I wanted to close this narrative here, my military career here in Korea, come back full circle.
And so let's talk about that a little bit then. So you feel like you have gotten closure then being stationed here?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Everybody has a narrative, right? Everybody's footsteps ordained, right? But my story is, my narrative is that of, I'm not saying I'm special in any way, but there's a reason I went through what I went through, right? To be able to share these stories, right? Share the story, because I tell you, I'll be honest with you, Sergeant Ross. I mean, there's still today, even in the 2022, right? That kids are being ostracized, because of their skin color here in Korea. Unfortunately, I mean, trust me, Korea's it's improved greatly. But there's still some problems, right? So with me sharing this kind of story, this will maybe, I probably won't change a lot of people's mind. I don't know. But, if I could just change that one person, right? And also give hope to those Amerasians, right? That's here. It's not only Korea. Again, like I said, it's Southeast Asia, right? And my thing is, as we pivot to the Pacific, when soldiers go out, and think about, getting in a relationship, they have to think about, hey, listen, they have to be responsible. They have to think about, the second or third order effect about what happens if they, leave that individual, that kid back there, right? And
I think it's also like just all soldiers, that are stationed overseas too. We got to realize the impact we have on those communities. We're not there just to, walk outside the gate and, get lunch across the street. We being here, we have a big impact on the communities.
Yeah, absolutely, Sergeant Ross. I mean, our number one responsibility here is we are ambassadors. Okay, I'm talking, I don't care if you're a private or I don't care if you're a general. We're all ambassadors. When people see us, they don't know about rank. They know about the uniform, and they know about the flag that's on our right side, right? So we got to make sure that we live in the best nation in the world, and we've got to remember that when we go out there, we got to be professional, right? And ensure that people understand, hey, listen, we are, we're representing America, and that's one thing that I want to kind of part with and just say, hey, listen, I mean, this is. This is a great country. It's a great country.
Yeah, and I think it's the historic alliance we've had in Korea. We've been here a long time, but it's all dependent on the people here, keeping it like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, this alliance, I think this is the longest standing alliance, right? Besides the one in Europe. But we just gotta, make sure that, hey, listen, we just gotta do the right thing. We gotta do the right thing, and get out and enjoy the people, and embrace the culture. Korea has a very rich culture, right?
Oh yeah,
a very rich culture. So embrace the culture, but again, remember that you're an ambassador, so represent yourself accordingly.
Okay, well, I think that's a great moment to end on. Is there anything else you want to say before?
No, Sergeant Ross, I just want to thank you and the command for, again, allowing me the opportunity to share my narrative. Hopefully, I'm able to kind of reach out to, whoever is in need of the story, and impart the good side of the story, and hopefully you embraced it.
Definitely, and it's an amazing story, sir. And thank you so much for being able to share that personal story with us. I know it's not easy to bring that up with everyone, but now everyone can hear it. So I just want to thank again Colonel Yi, and we're going to have an associated article with this with some more details from your life. So everyone, if also go to the 19th ESC website, that's where we're going to have that story. So thank you again, sir, and have a great week. And thanks for listening to the Every Soldier Counts podcast.